Hello, everyone. Welcome into the Loretta McNary Show. So, my guest this evening is an award winning Canadian poet, author, and producer, Dwayne Morgan. He's been using the art of spoken word for more than 30 years to celebrate truth, culture, and community. He's also the recipient, and we'll talk about what that means, of the Order of Ontario and one of the most respected voices in Canadian poetry. Everybody, welcome Dwayne Morgan. Hi there.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. So I'm just my first question, and I've done the research, so I know. But for those in my audience who may not know what the the Order of Ontario means, can you explain that high esteemed recognition?
All right. So, Ontario's in Canada is the equivalent of a state, in the United States. So it is the highest civilian honor that the government bestows upon any citizen in the entire province. So, I was just recently appointed to that, and that was a great honor.
Oh, wow. Well, congratulations from the Loretta McNary Show here in the United States of America.
Appreciate it.
Yes, so you've been called one of Canada's most influential spoken word artists. Take us back to the very beginning. Do you remember the first time you discovered spoken word and that you discovered your own unique talent for it?
Absolutely. So it all began in high school, and there was a talent show going on for Black History Month, and I am actually to this day very much an extreme introvert. So I never would have chosen to do something with my life that required me to be on stage, that required me to be in front of people with everybody looking at me. But here I was with this poem that I had for this Black History Month talent show. And I got up there and I said the poem, and everybody in the audience just absolutely loved this poem. And it gave me such encouragement to write and to create. And it was the first time that I found that I was actually good at something. So from there, I just had to, go out there and start trying to write more and perform more and share my work more. And it was very difficult trying to find places that would be open to a young Black man and the things that I was writing about and speaking about. So I ended up having to start my own business, putting on talent shows, because I couldn't find enough stages to get on my own. Hold on.
Okay, I'm here. Yeah, I'm so glad that my producer booked this show because one of my very favorite spoken word artists, and I've already called him to make sure he's watching. He's called Nick Nova. He's done really well. He performs and then he gets these gigs, right? And I was telling him about you, and he's like, "Why haven't I heard about him?" So I'm so glad that I'm able to introduce two amazing poets. And awesome. So he hasn't been doing it as long as you have. I can't believe you've been doing it for almost 30 years. So you performed on some of the largest stages, biggest stages, and now you were honored with the Order of Ontario. So what does that mean to you? Because you said you were introverted, which I want to circle back to that too, because I'm actually an introvert too. Nobody believes it because of what I get to do, but I can relate to not choosing that career. It chose me. So what is it that you want out of your spoken word ministry, so to speak, or business, so that other people can be inspired and to do their thing? Because fear stops us. Why didn't it stop you?
I mean, it could have stopped me. And one of the things that I had to do was to take myself out of the equation. And, what I mean by that is a lot of times there's ego that's involved. We start thinking about, what are people going to think of me? What are they going to say? Are they going to like it? And all these kinds of things. And that is the narrative that gets in our way, that often stops us from doing the things that we really, want to do or want to try to do. And I had to get to a point where I realized that if you asked me about some of my poems and where they came from, I'd be like, I have no idea. This just popped into my head at some point. And I realized that I am simply a vessel. And I take this inspiration, I turn it into something, and I give it away to people. And when I understood and accepted myself as a vessel, then I was no longer in it. I was no longer thinking about me. I was now thinking about you as the receiver of what it is that I am doing and what it is that I am giving. And I think focusing on the people who are receiving the gift has made it a lot easier to do what it is that I'm doing as an introvert.
Oh, wow. So you mentioned that people actually liked what you performed even in high school. So do you still get that feeling of, I don't know if it's awe that you get, but for me, when I see where people are really engaged with me, they love and they can't wait to meet me when I'm out. Are you still feeling that same energy from the very first time you realized that you had a gift and that people were impacted by it and that it was powerful? Do you feel that every performance?
I mean, I think it's hard to say that you're going to feel it every performance because, there are some performances that you do all the time. There are some performances where people are just seeing you or seeing spoken word for the first time. So it really all depends. But I think I'm always trying to challenge myself as an artist so that it's always fresh and exciting for me. So there's always something in it for me that I can look back on and be like, oh, that was really valuable as well, because I don't want to just be, this jukebox that gets up on stage and says these things and it hopefully means something to people, but, it stops meaning anything to me. I want to always make sure that what I'm saying means something to me as well. Otherwise, why am I saying it? The day I get to the point where it doesn't mean anything anymore to me, then I should just stop doing it.
Ooh, that was profound. And I feel the same way. I don't want to just to do this just to say I have a talk show. I'm on television. People can see me everywhere. So I know when I first encountered Nick Nova, the spoken word artist, he was a young man. I guess he was out of high school by that time. And to see him exude confidence. But when I talked to him and I interviewed him, he said it wasn't about confidence for him. He just knew he had to get up there and did the best he could. So do people say, do they project that your performance equals you're arrogant, you're cocky, or you so confident they wish they were like that? Or is it, for sure that it's just the performance? I'm just performing.
I mean, I never want to say that I'm just performing, because what I'm performing are bits and pieces of myself. So I never want to be in a state where I am just performing, because I'm giving so much of myself in that performance. So that would almost be selling myself short to say I'm just performing. And I always, again, it's the same kind of thing. If I'm ever just performing, I need to just stop doing it, because that means the passion isn't there anymore. I'm actually just doing it now for some other purpose that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So I always want to be present in what it is that I'm doing, so that it has value, and it has to start with me. The value has to be within me before I can give value to other people. So you always have to remember why you wrote a specific piece. You have to remember what it was that you wanted to get off your chest, what you wanted people to feel, what you wanted people to experience, and always be able to channel that and tap back into that. And the moment you lose that and it just becomes a performance, then it loses all of the magic.
Woo! I know that you're not doing this for performance. I know that because you just made sure we all knew that. And that was a great catch on that part. And I did not mean it like that. I knew where you were going. And I want people to understand that what he's saying is not just for a spoken word artist. It's for any of us doing the work we are gifted to do. It's not only transactional, it has to be relational as well, right? That's what he's saying. So I wanted to just make sure I get that out. So it doesn't matter if you're a spoken word artist or a TV talk show host or a vocalist or a musician or someone who makes cakes, or you're so good at, organizing homes, whatever your thing is, make sure it's not based on performance. So when you are writing, Dwayne, when you're sitting down to write, are you writing or is it writing you? I've heard Nick say that his poems, his poetry it writes him and not, he's just a vessel. And you mentioned you were the vessel too. So what's your process for getting it from your heart, your spirit onto paper and then onto a stage?
I mean, I think a lot of times I have the idea and I have, so many ideas that I'll probably not be able to live long enough to do something with all of these ideas. But I have all of these ideas and some of them, literally write themselves and other ones require a bit more of me. A lot of them, there's there's some of them that really require me to go places within myself to try to find the poem and be able to write it. So and those ones are the most difficult ones because it requires so much of you to actually go into places where oftentimes we don't want to go into the past, we don't want to go into trauma, we don't want to go into certain things, but it requires you to go there in order to extract the lesson that you're going to give to other people. And then there are other ones where it's like you just sit there and the ideas are just flowing and you have no idea where this is coming from. So a lot of times I say the poems are immaculate conception. A lot of times they just come and I have no idea when an idea is going to come, how the idea is going to come, how much of me I'm going to have to put into that idea. You just have to be open and you just have to be present. And again, as you were just explaining, that doesn't even just go for poetry, for creativity. That goes for everything. Are we present? Are we open? Because oftentimes the greatest blessings will be missed if we can't be open and present.
Woo. Okay, so has your style changed? Has your audience changed over the years? Or have you consistently been where you are today, just performing enough or being on stage enough, sharing enough so that it finds you? You don't necessarily have to find the right kind of audience at the right kind of venue at the right time, or do you go wherever somebody invites you and they tell you the audience and you write to that?
So I never write to the audience. I write the stuff that just comes to my mind and that I find interesting and things that I find valuable. My style has definitely changed a lot over the years, and this is year 32 at this point, and you have to constantly reinventing yourself in order to survive as long as I have in anything that we're doing. So I can look back at different points in my career and be and see how the work has changed. At the same time, I'm also always challenging myself to do new things, to try new things. What if I collaborate with a dancer? What if I collaborate with this musician? What if I turn this into a film? And that orientation always allows me to be as creative as possible and allows me to see the possibilities in what it is that I'm doing. Because if we believe that how we are doing it is the only way to do it, the world around us will outgrow us, because the world around us is constantly changing and you're in the exact same place doing the exact same thing that you've been doing forever. So you always, no matter what it is that we're doing, have to be willing to challenge yourself to do something different, to try it a different way, to see what that brings out in you. And I think my audience loves the fact that I'm always doing new things, that I'm always trying some different things. And, they'll be like, what is he doing now? And it's like, but they'll come out and support it because they appreciate that I'm trying. And a lot of times we don't try because we don't want to fail. But failure is the only way to success. Nobody succeeds without failing. So I have no problem trying things because people love to see you try, right? It's better than the sob story of I never started. So I rather try and fail than never start.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. And that brings us to my next question, because of course I did my research on you and you have some events coming up. So in order to get to that conversation, I want to take this route. So the name of your company is Up From the Roots Entertainment. Was it created out of necessity because there was something you wanted to do differently, but there wasn't an ecosystem for it yet? Or was it just your creativity saying, this is what we want to do? Or you were driven so much by your unique individual creativity to go and perform with a musician or maybe with a ballerina? I don't know. I didn't see everything, but I saw a lot. So talk about Up From the Roots Entertainment.
All right. So I started up from the roots when I was still in high school. I had no clue how to start a business, but I found a way and I started this business. And I wanted to create talent shows because at the time there were no platforms for young Black artists in the Toronto area to get on stage and perform, especially in the part of Toronto where I lived called Scarborough. So I started my own business. The name is taken from a quote from Marcus Garvey, a people without knowledge of their history is like a tree without roots. So I started a business up from the roots. I wanted it to be self-sustaining. I wanted it to be by my community, for my community, and allies of that community. And I wanted other young people who were like me, who had talent, who were struggling to find stages, to find a safe space where they could come and they can share and they can hone their craft. And it's been amazing to see that we're still here 3 decades later.
I'm so inspired. And it's not like our industries are totally different. I think they align and they merge and they collaborate too with entertainment and media and then spoken word in the way that you're doing it. So what was your most creative performance? Like I was telling Nick Nova, I'm like, I see you. And he had a guitarist. He had, I was telling him about having some ballet dancer doing, performing while he's doing poetry. But something so unique and different for each poet, I think, is how you stand out and how your message is more unique, not only in words, because I get lost. You guys are so profound. I get lost at like the third sentence. I get left behind and you've already created a whole entire masterpiece and I'm still stuck. So, so what has been one of your most outrageous creative performances that you were that maybe somebody said, wow, that was out there, Dwayne, and it worked?
Yeah, you know what? I used to do an annual one-man show that had a cast of about 30 people. So even in that, it was like, what is this guy doing? Because why does the one-man show have like 30 people in the show? And, part of the show, I would perform the work in the traditional sense with just, me and the microphone. There was another part of the show where a band would come out and then I would perform poems with the band. And then there was a third part of the show where the poems would be voiceovers and we would have actors acting out all of the things that were happening in the poem. And I just wanted to show how you can have one art form and represent it in multiple different ways, all on the exact same stage, all from the exact same artist. And people actually just loved to see that show because it really showed off my creativity and how I was able to imagine my work in different ways. So yeah, it was really awesome to do that. And I was grateful for the support that people gave me and the permission that people gave me to experiment. Because one of the things that also happens is that oftentimes our core audience doesn't allow us to experiment. They don't allow us to grow and do different things, right? So however they find you and however they love you, they want you to stay like that. But you as an artist might want to branch out and do something else and try something else. And you don't want to alienate those people. But I think it's so important for the people to support us to also support our growth, our experimentation, our delving deeper into ourselves to see what more we have to give.
Wow. Okay, that is so good. And again, not just for spoken word artists and poets and poetry, but for anybody doing anything. Don't let people put you in your comfort zone and then cage you there. Just don't do that. So I want to know, because you also did a Toronto Spoken Soul Festival. You want to talk about that? That sounds interesting.
Yeah, so I got a couple of colleagues together and we realized that there were a lot of festivals that were rooted in Black culture, but not necessarily booking Black artists to present that culture. So we wanted to create the Toronto Spoken Soul Festival where we could center Black artists, still have artists from, other backgrounds and stuff. But again, if the predominant idea, thought, sound, culture is from our community. Our community needs to be represented. It can't just be one of these things where the Black culture it's in right now. It's what's popping. Let's get everybody else to do it. So we have, all of the essence, but none of the Black. And because of that, we wanted to create something that put the Black back in it, so that we couldn't be erased from our own contributions to pop culture.
Oh, I love that. Oh, culture is everything. And so I want to ask you this, because we talked about you performing with musical artists. And so I have a question that came in. So what musical artists are you inspired by? And what genre of music? Or I like it all, except for hard rap. I can't do gangster rap because I don't know what they're saying. But but anything from country, gospel, jazz, R&B, I love old school. So who are you inspired by?
Yeah, I mean, I have been over the years definitely been inspired by, Prince was a big inspiration. Madonna was a great inspiration because I always looked at Madonna as someone who had limited talent, but believed so much in herself that she would not let that stop her from becoming a superstar. And that to me was such a valuable lesson, that you don't need to have it all. You just need to have enough. And then you need to have the belief to do the work and be like, I'm going to turn this into this. And I think that was always such a great thing to see how she has become, this iconic artist. And I mean, I listen to country songs. I'm always looking for songs that have a story, right? So I'm always, Ed Sheeran stuff is very impactful for me because there's always a story. He's a great storyteller. So I'm always looking for people who have a great story to tell that I can sometimes even just a line in a song sparks a whole, thought. So for me, it's always about the lyrics, and I'm always taking in the lyrics.
Okay, I'm gonna try to stay within 2 questions. What? Because I'm just enjoying this conversation, even as the host of the show. I'm actually enjoying the conversation. So my next to the last question is, when you hear people compare, and I've heard this, maybe you hadn't even heard this, but people want to compare rap music to spoken word. So how do you respond to that? Neither is bad or worse, depending on who it is. Of course, is relative. But how do you feel, and do you battle like that?
Well, I mean, they're cousins. They spoken word and rap, we came up at the exact same time. The hip hop, there's people who would put, spoken word on their albums. So, the Roots would have Ursula Rucker on their albums. Kanye had a song with Jay Ivy from Chicago on that song. So, I mean, they're not competing. They're two very, different things. In hip hop, you're kind of constrained by the beat. In spoken word, you have a bit more freedom to play around and go to different places. So, I let the rappers do their thing. I don't try to step into their lane. And a lot of them just can't step into our lane either, because a lot of them, when you strip away the music and the beats and stuff, all that the words still have to, hold up. So I think they're just cousins, and they both deserve their own appreciation.
Absolutely. And I think they have their own audience. And then sometimes I see where those audiences align. And one thing, I did a panel with Mr. Knowles, Professor Dr. Knowles, Beyonce's dad. And I remember, and this was about 8 years ago, and he said people were saying that Beyonce wasn't talented. There were a lot more people talented than her. And these are his words. He says, but you are not going to find anybody who can outperform her and whose work ethics are going to measure up. And that's the same thing is when you were making the correlation with why you love Madonna. Same thing, may not be, exuberantly talented, but her passion and her work ethics are going to keep her as a legend and iconic for, generations to come. So when you hear that, Can that be said about you? Because I believe that could be said, not that you're not super talented, because I've watched you and you really are. I love how you want to make sure other artists are given an up, though. You reach down and you pull other people up through the things you're doing next month, through the festival that you did, through the Up from the Roots. So is that super important to you, as in what kind of performance, I mean, what kind of poetry you write and deliver, helping other artists?
Yeah, it's very important to me to help other artists because I realized how difficult it was for me coming up, and there weren't a whole lot of people for me to look at for inspiration. So I'm always trying to create platforms for other artists to do their thing. And for a lot of the artists that I mentor, I always tell them that, you know, most of y'all can outwrite me, but you'll never outwork me. It's just you don't have it in you. You're not going to outwork me at any day of the week. And you can be, you know, 20, 30 years younger than me, have way more energy, have fewer responsibilities. But I grew up in a time where all we knew was how to work and how to hustle. We didn't have social media and all of these kinds of things. So no matter how you wake up in the morning, you will never outwork me. Outwrite me, maybe. Outwork me, absolutely not.
Not gonna happen. I love it. Oh, I love it. Okay. I want people to make sure they go and follow you too everywhere, his website and all his socials. And so your event, you have like 5 different things going on in November. I just want you to run through that. And then if you could finish this sentence, poetry taught me that, and how would you complete it today? But tell us about November, how they can get more information, how they can find you, because I definitely want to connect you and Nick Nova.
Yeah, definitely make that connection for November. So yeah, November, I'm celebrating my 32-year anniversary. So we have a few different shows. So there's one called Poems in the Key of Life. And there's 3 different editions of that show, and it's a night of piano and poetry. So one show I'm collaborating with a jazz pianist, one with an R&B pianist, and one with a soul music pianist, and just seeing how their influence changes my work and creates something new and dynamic. We have one show called Back Chat, which is a spoken word show, but after each poet performs, they do a Q&A with the audience. So the audience can actually engage with them and ask questions about the work that they performed. And the big marquee event is a show that I started in 1999 called When Brothers Speak. And this is it's the largest spoken word event of its kind in North America. Every year it features 6 Black men from different places just through spoken word, sharing about their lived experiences. And it happens in a big theater downtown Toronto. People go get their hair done, get the outfits, all that good stuff, and they come out because it only happens one time a year. So all 5 of those events are happening in November as part of this 32-year anniversary.
Congratulations, kudos. Oh my goodness, that sounds so good. Next year I want to be there. I want to be your MC or something, because I can't do spoken word. I can write, but I'm good at, you know, the hype. I'll do the hype for you. I'll get, not that you probably do, you know, because I'm different. Like you would say you're different. Anyway, that sentence, Dwayne,
all right, so tell me the sentence again.
Poetry taught me that.
All right, so poetry taught me that our stories matter, that our lived experiences matter, that sharing matters. And as we move into a world that is more dependent on technology, people are going to be craving more and more human connection. And that can be found through poetry, through stories, through the arts. And, you know, I have committed the last 3 decades of my life to giving that to people and to the community. And as long as I have breath, I will continue on that journey.
Awesome. You just live it. It just exudes from you without, you don't even have to try. You don't have to tell it to come on or anything. You may have to say, hey, let's tone this down for a minute. But I have thoroughly enjoyed this. I want to thank you so much for your time and your truth and your commitment to culture and community and to inspiring others through your words and through your life as well. So thank you for being my guest. And I pray that you experience life on a level that even you didn't even think it was possible, because I'm inspired. I'm geeked. I'm so geeked and ready to even do more in my lane.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. And thank you so much for having me. I've loved the conversation and I look forward to chatting again.
All right. I will send the information to your publicist. How about that?
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Dwayne. I appreciate
No
you.
problem. All right.
Bye
Thank you
for
so
now.
much. Okay.
So I want to tell you, I'm telling you, I did enjoy that. Not that I have any admirations or ambitions or plans to become a spoken word artist. I do write a little poetry here and there. I'm inspired by Nick Nova. He and I'll start, writing or texting, and I might get inspired and put a little bar together or something. And he's, Mom, those bars. That's bars, Loretta. But anyway, I just want to encourage you to do what you love doing that. Love it, live it, believe it. Whatever comes easy for you, it brings you immense joy. You would do it for free. Do more of that and watch everything else fall into place for you. All right, think positive, dream big dreams, help someone along the way, and don't forget to live each day like you believe. Bye for now, everyone.